so you need to know the process for filling vacant federal judgeships. The basic process is simple. The President of the United States, you, will nominate an individual, and the Senate will confirm the nominee. Easy. So why is it not actually simple or easy? It comes down to the nitty-gritty details. As you'll see in this textbook, each level of court hosts its own nuance on how everything shakes out. Formally, you hold all of the power for nomination. Informally, there are quite a few things you'll have to consider. Specifically, who will the Senate accept to fill a vacancy? Referring to the textbook on pages 153 and 154, you'll find that the Senate has historically held a decent amount of sway on who you nominate. You don't want to step on any toes. Additionally, you might want to consult the American Bar Association or consider the sway of other interest groups and your general constituents as well. So why do you want to involve the Senate in your selection process? They're the ones who will confirm your nomination. The people who really need to be satisfied are the senators from the states where the judge will preside. If you don't involve home state senators from your party in the nomination process, ignoring their informal power of senatorial courtesy, they'll object to your nominee, and their colleagues will follow suit in solidarity to protect the power. If the home state senator isn't from your party, then you don't actually owe them the courtesy, but they can still get a blue slip put through the Judicial Committee and stall your confirmation of your nominee that way. I want to note that senators from your party can do this as well. Long story short, you have to play ball. The power of home state senators fades a bit going from district judgeships to U.S. Court of Appeals judgeships. Appellate judges tend to stick to their state, but you still get a bit more wiggle room. That goes double for appointments to the D.C. Circuit Court since there's no senators tied to it. Going up to the third level, the Supreme Court, you don't have to worry about home state senators really, but now you're appointing the cream of the crop, and that means that the stakes just naturally get a lot higher. Keeping it simple, you need to worry about satisfying the senators and making sure that you fill the judgeships with nominees that will make them happy, your constituents happy, and any interest groups happy. Really quickly, I want to mention with interest groups that they do tend to play a fairly big role in federal nominations as well, often through backing politicians. I will attach a works cited page with the link to the Brennan Center of Justice article where they talk about 3 different high court nominations that got influenced through interest groups. And I'll go into detail on how interest groups throw their weight around to influence the nomination and selection process through drumming up funding for ad campaigns and so on. Basically, you're going to find that interest groups have a bit of indirect influence on the process simply by virtue of the power over their power over politics in general. Now, in your message, you asked about the Missouri plan, and I've got some information here on that too, coming again from the textbook on pages 164 and 165. It says here that it is a merit-based system that tries to satisfy as many people as possible while filling judgeships with capable individuals. So how does it do that? Instead of nominees coming from a single executive head, such as the president, the system relies on a nominating commission filled with lawyers and lay people who come up with a list of candidates that the governor chooses from. After the new judge has spent some time on the bench, the judge gets put up for what is called a retention election, where the people get to decide on whether they want to keep the judge on or if they want the whole process to start over again. If the judge gets a majority vote to stay, they get a full term on the bench and periodically get put back up for retention elections at the end of their terms. You asked me what I think about it, and it's not a terrible system. It gives some power back to the people in the states, which is good. But like most state elections, there is not a lot of interest in them. Don't get me wrong, there's been some serious work put in to change that as time has worn on, and you can read a little about that on pages 165 and 166 in the textbook. But really, that's just something that is going to take time and is mostly just endemic to it being perceived as less important by the people. Overall, it's not a bad system, and certainly isn't any worse than the federal nomination and selection process. Honestly, I think at the federal level, it would be a very powerful process. People tend to pay a lot more attention to federal elections, and involving the people in who interprets the law that binds them would be a big step forward compared to how it is now, where judges aren't really affected by the people. The insulation created for them constitutionally is really something that goes a bit against the democratic principles of the United States. But of course, that's up to debate on whether the threat of getting voted out would corrupt rulings and the like. And it's just a big philosophical conundrum that's very complex and hard to find consensus on.